Okay, I gotta run to the bathroom while it bakes. Come on. I am back.
Welcome back. So many of these things are just, I mean, the what do you call it? The titles basically write the, snark themselves.
Mm-hmm. I like penguins. They're adorable. Just gonna say, I'm just putting that out there. I think they're adorable.
Yeah, me too.
Mm-hmm. I also have a little. I still have like a little stuffed penguin from when I was a kid.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. Okay. Blah, blah.
You reckon we got enough?
Yeah, how many do we have? We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We have 6. And let me see how the pie is doing. Oh my god, the pie is doing good for once. How many minutes we got on that? We got 2 minutes. Okay, we got 3 minutes until I can actually
Your
start the
computer
Bleach.
is fucking with you.
What do you mean?
It's actually working as it should?
Well, actually, it's YouTube is working as it should, which is unusual.
Let's see. I'm going to go ahead and pop this out into another window.
And Thurg has been warned, and he is here. I feel warned. But yeah, YouTube's not hating itself for a while. There it goes. I spoke too soon.
Alright.
Okay. Now we got to give it a few more minutes so to determine if this is going to be a hot flash or do I have to turn down the bit rate.
Alright, let's bust this out. And sorry, I'm getting my workspace set up.
It's alright.
Alright, penguins.
It
Woman
was
that actually cared.
one that
Adoption
actually.
agencies.
Oh,
I'm missing a couple.
what do you mean?
I've got 1, 2. I've only got 4.
Okay, hold on. Let me send you the rest of them, or make sure you have the rest of them. Okay, hurry up, you bastard. Also, in sad news, at least for me, the state's not going to allow local governments to extend last call to 4 a.m.
That should be a local matter.
Yeah, well, apparently it's not. Well, I mean, I guess it's state law is 2 a.m., but you can set one earlier, and they were going to try to roll it back to 4 a.m. And, yeah, apparently the governor vetoed it. Because Democrats are so liberal.
Hey. Sorry, on another one, on another chat, it's funny. They're talking about furries.
Oh, furries. Pie, you're okay. Let's just hope you stay that way. Okay, what's the timer on this? We're at 4 minutes, 30 seconds, and I can go live. Or preview.
Alright, people defend men spreading, and artist explained bisexual something or another.
We're going to do the cartoon one first because it's hilarious.
Oh, the artist explained one?
Yeah.
Alright.
I mean, this is literally the fitting of discourse when it comes to dealing with feminism and LGBT stuff. Is literally a comic done in what looks like three colors.
Ooh, this would have looked great on my old CGA monitor. Even know what a CGA monitor is, I'm impressed.
Isn't that a green screen?
No, CGA monitor was the step right above monochrome. That
Oh,
was your green screen. It had a whole whopping 4 colors.
oh.
Then we had EGA, which was capable of 16, and then finally VGA, which is where we got into 256 and then beyond.
Okay, I'm hitting the buttons. We're gonna be going live soon once this figures itself out.
All right, let's see.
And we'll be going live momentarily. Maybe. I don't know. And
Hooray!
we went live and we went good at the same time. We're actually live here, guys,
Hey, everybody.
we're only moderately late.
For which we apologize greatly.
Yeah, for which my computer can go do something. I don't know. I don't know. Can computers fuck themselves?
I think you have to use apt-get install, or something like that for it.
Ah, well, I don't know. I actually had to unplug my computer to get it to restart. And you have a
Really?
cat in your face, yeah.
Yeah, they tend to do that.
Mm-hmm.
And now she's making biscuits on my lap with her claws.
Oof, fun.
Thank you, Saga.
Yes, this is what happens when you have cats.
Yeah, it tends to happen.
Mm-hmm. Anyways, today, for those of you who are here or will watch this later, and hello, Thurg.
Hey, Third.
Yes, Thurg is here. I'm guessing you don't have chat open in another window.
I'm still getting my stuff set up.
Ah. Anyways, we're starting out with a cartoon because it wouldn't be feminism if there wasn't a picture to go along with it, because that's the level of discourse that we're dealing with.
Well, cartoons were also extremely popular as propaganda.
Uh huh. So true. Damn you, Mickey Mouse.
No, Mickey got his start in porn. He was a skank.
mm. So, anyways, I'm just going to start reading through this because apparently it's by visibility weekend. Again, we should have gotten two. Just saying.
So my role in this gang is to only speak when spoken to.
At least until we get the stupid off the screen. Well, I mean, it's all stupid. Until we get this flavor of stupid off the screen. So, anyways, we're talking about the word bisexual. This is basically a non-verbalized version of queer kid stuff, and meant for a slightly older audience. I would say it's at least age appropriate, I guess. Audience. It's designed more for a teenager, I'm assuming. Anyways, let's get into the first panel over here. Hey, isn't being bi transphobic? No, my sweet little rando. If you like women and you don't consider trans women to be women, that's your damage. Not a problem with the word bisexual. I don't damage.
That's your damage. What are we, like 10?
Yeah, or
I mean, aside from mentally.
or at least your ass is due to all the butt hurt. People who don't acknowledge a trans person's gender identity have their own problem. Men include trans men. Women include trans women. End of story. Bisexuals who are transphobic are just that, transphobic bisexuals.
Hold on, I have something in my eye.
Is it cat or stupid?
No, it was an Oh, there's another one.
Mm-hmm. You know they can see you, right?
Yes.
Anyways, you got anything to say on this person's damaged ass?
Well, first off, I mean, who exactly is this cartoon person or this caricature of herself, really, to say what people's problems or their damage are? Focus on your own shit. Thank you.
Yep. I cannot agree more.
And secondly, who the fuck lectures their friends that way? I mean, at this point, I've been, if I were the other blue haired chick, I would have been like, okay, and, slowly working my way toward the door.
Actually, the other person's supposed to be some random person questioning their logic, not a friend.
Well, in that case, I would have just looked the person in the face, don't care, and walked off.
Yeah, I mean, I would. I mean, I personally wouldn't have started a conversation with "is being bisexual transphobic" as a question, but that's just me. uh, okay. Then what about non-binary people? If you like men and women, doesn't that mean you wouldn't date NBs? Wait, we're calling them NBs now?
Yeah, because God knows you can't, have it without some cutesy thing to take something that's completely clinical sounding.
Yeah. Good question, my.
It's all PR.
Yeah. Ugh. Good question, my darling love child of misinformation and biphobia. Let me show you a chart. You love charts.
Oh my God, she just charted all over the place.
I thought it was I thought it was mentally charted all over the place. Okay, here's the stupid chart. Okay, oh wait, you guys can't see it. There's the stupid chart for those of you online watching this.
Okay, first off, now, if I ever say something to a random stranger and they start in like this with a TED Talk, yeah, I'm probably getting the fuck out of there quick.
Yeah.
These are people that think in italics. Never trust those people.
Yeah. And also a somewhat a half gay, half valley girl voice, which is why I'm doing it. Otherwise known as basic bitch.
Yeah, I tried doing the chick voice once and it came out as biker lesbian, so
Yeah, at least it's woman. It's more. It's at least it's more real than their NB gender.
Yeah, it's like I'm a lesbian, dipshit.
The two of bi may have meant two sexes in the past, but that's not how we use it now. Yes. By that definition, don't bi and pan mean the same thing?
Oh, we also doesn't mean what it used to as well.
Yeah, it's the royal we now.
Yeah, unless they got a turd in their pocket, which I don't doubt, and I'm not kink shaming them for.
Mm-hmm. So homo means alike, genders like mine, hetero means different, so genders unlike mine. Bi means two, so genders both like and unlike mine. And pan means all.
Time out. All right, let's go ahead and do a Venn diagram between those last two. Genders that are both like and unlike yours, right?
Mm-hmm.
For bi?
Yep.
And then pan meaning all.
Yeah.
Wouldn't all naturally be divided between both like and unlike? Wouldn't that be all encompassing anyhow?
Yeah, don't ask. Don't ask. They didn't think this through, so why should we?
Oh, because I have to show someone has to explain to them what their position is.
I guess so. And again, those of you in chat, if you have questions, speak up. Preferably by adding me so I can see it pop up in orange. And blah, blah. Okay, there we go. Let me scroll. Okay, anyways. So the black-haired dumpster says, I am a non-binary. It may seem bizarre for an NB to be a bisexual if you misunderstand what bi means. Why not just switch to pansexual then, says the other lady.
Self-hatred.
Honestly, because I was bisexual first. I've been bi since I knew it. It was a thing I could be. It's me. I like it. Okay?
Okay, so
And
it's all about how you feel. It's not about what you actually are. Good to know.
Yeah. Yeah, and when I use the term bisexuality, I'm focusing on the sex, it's not gender. It would be bigenderality or some bullshit. I don't know. I'm not making up words. I'm not Tumblr, so. But still, sexuality. It's sex, not gender. Just saying that.
Yeah, but it is fun taking, any instance of the word sex and replacing it with the gender, like hard, rigorous gender between two consenting adults.
So you think people shouldn't use pan? Not at all, my precious imaginary counter argument, no. So wait, you're having arguments with randos in your head? I mean, I do that too sometimes, but I don't have them this vividly.
I don't know. I mean, by the way, I'm going to go ahead and take a moment to chill from my book. It's volume 16 of arguments that I totally could have won in the shower.
Mm.
Yeah,
Mm.
it'll be at fine booksellers coming this October. Look for it, guys.
This is the biggest and most dangerous myth construction. Bai and Pan are not enemies. They are not at odds with one another. They coexist because language is messy. Okay.
Ow, that hurt.
The
I
stupid
just
is
rolled my eyes so hard that they hurt.
the stupid is thick with this one.
Yeah, I mean, language is messy. No, language is not messy. It's the uh, it's the concepts that are messy, and when you're purposefully muddling those concepts, you can expect it to be messy.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's not because language is messy, it's because our concepts are stupid.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, pretty much. I mean, humans are messy. Our actions are messy. But when you're intentionally trying to make it into a fucking train wreck,
Hmm.
it's gonna get more messy. Like we have perfectly functioning and useful concepts. It's just this. I'm just realizing my arrow is actually not showing up on OBS like it normally does. Anyways, it's the blue and black haired dumpster who's all like, oh, and oh, I'm gonna muddy it and I'm gonna gatekeep. So how dare you gatekeep?
Um, I've scanned ahead in this thing, and one thing that she doesn't do is give us any kind of differentiate between the two.
Mm-hmm.
What is the fucking difference? I really think if she's going to make these claims, then she might want to qualify these things.
Yeah, but that is fucking heteropatriotic patriarchal normative.
Yeah, it also makes my nipples hard. What's your point?
That it's not her job to add definition. It's just her job to fuck up what we already have. uh, language around gender and sexuality changes fast, and it will continue to change. Okay, so
As
you
long as
have
Tumblr exists.
yes, so you have transvestite, transsexual, transgender, and trans. We use all four of these words still, and they all mean different things. It's your dumbass that's put, it's her dumbass that's assigned negative connotations to some of these. Like Tranime, she considers herself transsexual. Some people still consider themselves transvestites. It,
Hmm.
and it just like over here, like it has the gay, then LGBT, then the whatever the fuck GSM is. I mean, I thought that was bondage, but that's just me.
Genital sexual mutilation?
I don't know. And then queer. Fuck me. Queer is still a oh god, is still a slur to me. Oh, also just for those of you who don't, if you ever, there's a social media thing called Nextdoor, and it's hilarious if you can find one. Just like someone in my neighborhood posted a picture that says, "What spider is this?" Um, yeah, it's I don't know what spider it is, but it's just hilarious. Some of the shit that's on there. Oops.
It's insane.
Yep.
Okay, what just happened to my crazy ass comic? There it is.
Okay. In conclusion, it's okay to be bi. Bi and pan can coexist peacefully, and don't assume bisexuals are trans or NB exclusionary. Yeah, bi and pan people cannot exist in peacefully because pansexuals are up their assholes like black haired dumpster over here who don't like bisexuals because they just assume we're trans exclusionary. I mean, I'm non-binary exclusionary, but that's just because I don't want to deal with a needless head fuck. I mean, that's why I don't date women. I don't need the head fuck.
No, it's okay. I can introduce you to all kinds of just absolutely fucked up guys too,
I've
because I'm
met a
all
few.
about equality.
I've met a few damaged guys. Also, the other girl in this, the blue-haired girl, is not amused by this entire interaction, which
She's
is
probably, it's probably not that she's irritated. It's just, that the armpit hair is kind of tickling her and she doesn't like that.
yeah. But I'm just saying, like, she's not amused, and I think she's captured the entire
Ah,
mentality of
Dirk has
people.
enlightened us. GSM is gender and sexual minority.
Oh
The fuck is that?
no, bad you. There we go. Gender and sexual minority. Thank you, Thurg.
Nah, just looking at all these acronyms, though, I mean, it's going to get to where. Have you ever watched the IT Crowd?
No.
The replacement for 911 kind of reminds me of how the acronym is going.
Mm-hmm.
Their version of 911 in the show is 0118-999-88199
Oh, there's no
Who the
comments on
fuck is
that.
going to remember that?
Neither. No one. Okay, let's go to Bleach Bitch. Got Bleach
Bleach
Bitch.
bitch.
Yep, Bleach Bitch.
Finding Bleach. Bleach bitch. No, I do not want notifications from Fem Positive. Thank you.
Yeah, I do not want. I already get enough computer viruses through all the porn I watch. I don't need more.
Yeah, I mean, I like to think of my computer as kind of an ant farm of viruses, really. I mean, with as much time as I spend on the dark web,
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But I will find that damn library.
Mm-hmm. Now I'm just gonna say this right off the bat. This guy is probably the guy in red here is probably he was probably staged, just by the looks of it.
I'm sorry, I'm just looking at the picture and I know immediately what comes to mind, and it's absolutely horrible.
What is it?
Buffet.
Oh, nice. But yeah, this picture looks staged. Because for those of you who actually follow my Twitter and my persistent bitching about Bart, no one actually sits like this on Bart. Literally, no one does. I mean, granted, it's because we don't have the space to, but it still no one's that big of an asshole to do this. I'm just gonna say that.
Serg is trying to convince me to get notifications from Fem Positive. He says I really want them. Well, yeah, like I want herpes.
And hello, bitch.
Like
Please.
I'd like to get my dick caught in the vacuum cleaner again.
Yeah, that wouldn't be fun. Dick caught in a vacuum cleaner. Oh boy.
We don't have to use all the attachments. So let's go ahead and start with this dumpster fire. Have you heard of manspreading? If you hadn't before, like if you live in a cave or away from feminist media or any kind of crap like that, the chances are you may have learned what it is over the last few days following a stunt by a Russian activist who started pouring bleach onto the crotches of guilty commuters and miraculously not getting the shit beat out of her in the process.
Mm-hmm.
You probably read the articles in the last few days about the Russian activist. Wait, it just literally said that.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my God, editing. Women can do anything as well as men. Edit. All right, that's all I'm
Mm-hmm.
going to say. If you hadn't, click here, which of course we will not. Manspreading is one man sits with his legs splayed apart in a public place and taking up more than one seat by doing so. Most of us would agree that taking up more than one chair in public transport is bad etiquette.
Mm-hmm.
Crazy eye twitch. However, it seems that not everyone agrees that manspreading is such a disgusting form of space hogging, and certainly not one that should be punishable by pouring bleach onto someone's groin.
Yeah, like this guy who's asleep here on the train. That's how most people sit on public transit, and that's about how far apart women's legs are, even on the trains.
Well, not to mention, if it's a space issue, then I would casually direct the people's attention to his left, where there is a door and nobody can sit,
Mm-hmm.
and to the right, where there are two empty seats.
Yeah.
No, this is someone that, as much as I hate violence, when you start doing stuff like this, I'm going to laugh when she gets her grill fucked up.
Yeah,
I totally am.
Because if someone tried this, if someone did try this on Bart, I probably, because I listen to music when I'm on the train. If someone tried this shit, I probably would get like freaked out, and, like accidentally backhand them, just like totally out of shock of, oh my God, I've just been assaulted.
No, I'd knock the piss out of him. I'd know
Mm-hmm.
damn well what I did, too. Thurg says that he would leave open the possibility that this Bleach Bitch horror show is staged, but there are those here, in which case I believe he means yeah, in the U.S., that would take it seriously and do it here.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, there certainly are. That's why things like this are incredibly dangerous, because they embolden the stupid.
Yeah, and that place is called Portland.
Yeah.
Or Boston.
And, I mean, I'm sorry, but I don't think these people realize or even care what they're doing to their so-called allies. They're setting them up for brutality.
Yeah. Like, I know, like, I was sort of kidding about this, but yeah, I'm gonna guarantee you that at some point some bitch is gonna do this in Portland. Like, I'm
Oh, I can
telling you that.
guarantee it.
Yeah, I don't think anyone would try this in New York or the Bay Area just because people here. Well, I know people in New York. Someone would actually just flatten the bitch if they tried this on the subway in New York. Like that's how New Yorkers tend to do, and I don't think people in the Bay Area would take too kindly to it either. Because there's how do I put this? A lot of minorities and people who aren't exactly friendly ride the trains around here still, so they ain't gonna
Mhm.
take some black guy named Jamal is not gonna take too kindly to some bitch pouring bleach on him.
I know Jamal, and he wouldn't take kindly to it.
No. Anyways, manspreading is done because it's uncomfortable to close our legs due to our testicles. Is that legit? Yes, it is. Well, spinal neurosurgeon Jeff Sutcliffe says the lack of pelvic width could be behind manspreading. It is behind manspreading. There is no fucking could. I'm sorry, my even just sitting here, my legs are apart just how I sit on my very tiny ass. Like I could bring them in together, but it's uncomfortable. I
Oh,
mean,
not me. I sit dainty and prettily every time.
you know, I mean, just sitting here, there's maybe like a 4 inch gap between my knees, and I'm not like spreading out or anything. I'm just sitting like how my um, ass just sits naturally. So it's like,
According to John Scutliffe, I'll go ahead and read the quote. The
mm-hmm,
overall width of the pelvis is relatively greater in females, and the angle of the femoral neck is more acute. These factors could play a role in making a position of sitting with the knees close together less comfortable in men. I suspect most men would suggest the reason for adopting the more spread posture in sitting would be the avoidance of testicular compression from the thigh muscles. Pelvic rotation goes some way to improve compression with both aspects, he noted.
mm-hmm,
Okay, so yeah, about that. Now, she just got someone that actually studies anatomy and physiology and
mm-hmm,
has something like that. Let's see how she reacts.
yep. According to one of the captions on the viral video, which saw activists pouring bleach on men's groins, an experiment has been carried out where women tried sitting with their legs while wearing imitation testicles in order to see whether it was really uncomfortable. How is that going to matter if you can't shrink your pelvis and make it narrower?
Because don't you know there are no biological differences between men or women? The only reason that I have a beard, upper body strength, and a deep voice is because some doctor looked at me at birth and pulled male out of the sorting hat.
Mm-hmm. Uh, and
Now, granted, most of the
mhm,
women that believe this looks like the sorting hat, sorted them to the International House of Pancakes,
mhm,
but that's another story.
yep. Miss Foreign, the law student behind the bleach stunt, describes the act of manspreading as a form of gender aggression. Well, bitch, you're a cunt. That's all I'm going to say to you. She added that the men who try to demonstrate their alpha manhood in the subway with women and children around them deserve contempt. How are my hips being narrower than yours somehow aggression? I
Okay,
was
now,
bitch, I was born this way. That's all I'm going to say to that.
with all due respect, Dov Galyuk, God, I can't even say it, is apparently she believes that gender aggression is a bad thing.
Hmm.
I agree, aggression based on gender is, but what the fuck do you call pouring bleach in people's laps just because they got a dick?
Yeah, I know.
And we just got demonetized.
Well, I mean, I was demonetized like a year ago, so I don't really
Yeah, but
care.
I'm gonna say that every fucking time, and you know
Hmm.
it.
Hmm.
I'm gonna run that bitch into the ground.
Anyways, so here's some of the comments. Whoops. So she should be
Oh,
arrested. Why wasn't
one
she?
more
Because
thing.
it's Russia.
It says she poured a mixture of bleach and water on 70, actually 270 man spreaders, what she offered to him in a cup, on the metro train in St. Petersburg, Russia, in the video, which has been viewed more than 3.3 million times on YouTube. Here's the kicker. However, the video was only liked by 2,900 users and disliked by 63,000 sensible people.
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
And Tali D. Rosie said she should spend about 15 years in a cage thinking about what she's done.
that's a tad extreme, Tracy Rose says.
Yeah,
And
no,
Amanda
that.
Pike says, no, it's not. As someone who had a disabled friend who had to spread, and as someone who's been poor enough to only own one pair of pants, no, that punishment is not too extreme. This is evil. Thank you, Amanda Pike. Love you. Big kiss.
Yeah, that's funny. That I kind of find it funny that some of the what's it called, even feminists aren't even taking to this too kindly. Which I guess even among feminists, this man spreading bullshit is failing as an argument.
Yes. I'm honestly convinced that there are some that are feminists that are good, decent people that are just a little bit misguided.
Mm-hmm.
And it's really nice for them. It's really nice to hear them say, "No, this is horse shit."
Yep. Anyways, let's move on. We got Brexit will be a disaster for queer people. We demand a people's vote. So I'm guessing the gays are now pushing for a second Brexit vote.
Oh my God.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, granted, I've got mixed feelings on the EU, but first off, a lot of these guys are from out of state. Secondly, there it is. It's like, we're Malik.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they're basically saying that because of the May surrendering to the EU and saying, yeah, we'll basically do whatever the fuck you want. Everyone apparently they're saying like, yeah, no, we want a second referendum because we didn't vote for this shit. Well, to be fair, technically the people voting for Brexit probably wanted more of a hard one, and the people who voted no were the ones who just wanted status quo.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I get that nobody voted for this, but considering how incompetent Theresa May's being and how hard the Angela Merkel is being, I'm assuming they're going to get a hard Brexit just because of their own stupidity. Well, at least May's stupidity is just going to crash and burn in a hard Brexit.
Let's see. So, do you want to start?
I don't really want to read through all of it if you don't mind. Because I'm assuming it's not going to be anything beyond we want to vote on checkers because it's shit. And if we vote no, we stay in the EU. More or less. I mean, I know I'm just guessing at this, but reading all this bullshit, it's kind of predictable at this point. It's we want to vote on checkers, and if we vote no, we stay in the EU, no questions asked. Is what
I think
assuming.
the big thing is, first off, these folks are like, okay, we're going to have a vote. Well, we voted, leave. Yeah. Oh, no, we got to have a vote. No, we literally just did that.
Yeah.
But I think, now a friend of mine that actually lives in the EU does see some positives to it.
Mm-hmm.
So, really, my big question is, why are these people wanting to check out of the EU? Could it be that the EU government itself is overreaching vastly?
Yeah, and it's corrupt as shit.
And I really think if they're serious about wanting people to stay in wanting these different groups to vote to stay with the EU, they need to make it worth their time and not overstep their boundaries.
Yeah, like it was Griffiths, the only Danish person. She's not Danish. She's Dutch. Oh well, I have just missed ethnicity to her. Anyways, she was saying that back when the EU started, like she can remember people actually being hopeful about it and how it was going to be good for Europe, and now the only incentive to stay in the EU is there basically being that abusive boyfriend saying it's going to be worse for you if you leave. And she's like, at some point, people are going to be, yeah, you know what, fuck the consequences, we'll take them just to be rid of you.
As someone that's been in a relationship like that, they certainly will.
Yeah.
If they know what's, I almost said if they know what's good for them, but I heard that a few times.
Yeah. Like I know people do the whole, oh well, the EU is basically the Soviet Union. It's not by a long shot, but the thing is though, it's like the Soviet Union eventually hit the point of it's literally better. It's literally better to put up with all the bullshit of leaving than it is to still stick with it.
I lean toward autonomy as much as possible myself, but still. So what gets me is all these folks that are over here in the United States trying to tell Britain how to run their country, but you mentioned that there's a possibility that some foreign group may have interfered with one of our elections and they lose their shit. Make up your fucking mind.
Yeah, I know. Anyways, let's quickly move on to the next one, because apparently this is actually going to be interesting, and it's something I've covered a few times. It's the measure to allow adoption agencies to ban gay and lesbian parents dies in the house. It's from LGBTQ Nation.
So, Adderholt Amendment. This is a new one on me.
Anyways, a provision that would have punished states for protecting the gay, adoptive, and foster parents has failed in the House. In July, Republicans on the House Appropriations Committee attached the Aderholt Amendment, which would have banned states from enforcing anti discrimination laws if they conflicted with an adoption agency's religious belief, to a funding bill for the Department of Labor, Health and Human Services, and Education. That is a long ass department name. Just saying. Oh, departments. It's multiple. Sorry.
Okay, I was gonna say.
Like, yeah, that would just be a big ass department. Anyways, yesterday, though, the Aderholt Amendment was dropped in negotiations between the House and the Senate, and the House passed the budget measure without it. The amendment faced strong opposition from Senate Democrats. Representative Rosa DeLario, a Democrat from Connecticut, said, "It was a proud fight to ensure that at the Aderholt Amendment, which would have inserted bigotry and discrimination into our foster care and adoption systems, was removed from this year's budget." But the thing is, though, with this is the federal court system's already overruled that the adoption agencies can't be discriminatory based on their religious principles already. So it's not something that would have survived very long, and it wouldn't have survived long in the court system anyways.
Yeah, it's true. I mean, I really don't see this bill as even remotely being enforceable for starters.
Yeah.
But also, I mean, how many gay people do you actually know that are lining up to get children?
I only know of like one or two couples.
I would like to adopt a kid. I just don't, because it's just me, and I don't think that's fair to a kid. But it's like the people that were going on about marriage equality that couldn't hold down a boyfriend for more than 2 weeks.
Oh, you mean guys who've had their asses invaded more than France?
God, you're a cunt. I adore you. So children deserve to live in safe, happy, and healthy permanent homes, and their best interests should always be placed first, she added. No qualified adoptive and foster care parent should be discriminated against, period. With which I agree, but the thing is, the places that are going to get federal funding are the ones that people can adopt children from.
Mm-hmm.
So I kind of see this as, a bit ridiculous, really.
Yeah. The Aderholt.
What do you think, though?
I think it's. I don't think. I'm not big on the federal government fund, because it's going to nonprofits. It's not going to like county agencies or anything, which can't discriminate because of other established reasons. I don't think the federal government really should be funding nonprofits to a large extent. Like this kind of bullshit, I don't think they should be doing at all. Like I think it honestly should just be a state and local issue, because it is a state and local issue, and the federal government should have no interference here, like no funding, no say. It's a totally state deal.
Well, and that would let people within a given region decide for themselves what the rules are going to be.
Mm-hmm. That not only that, but the court system's already very much said that you can't, if because usually the adoption agencies are signing up with like the county or the state or something to do this. So if the state's like, your religious crap isn't a good enough reason to be discriminatory, that's enforceable because they signed a contract agreeing to it. So it's one of those deals. I don't think the federal government, like, I don't mind if a government funds a nonprofit. I just don't want it to be the feds doing it in most instances.
Well, I mean, originally the federal government was supposed to be rather minimalist anyhow, just handling the basics, handling international, trade, and on top of that, basically letting the states free to do their own things. And I really think that, especially since World War II, we've gotten away from that.
I mean, I know the libertarian logic behind this is, as well, the federal government's just a behemoth. It's like, no, it really isn't. It's been a lot of the states are actually probably more at fault for this bullshit than the feds are. The states are willing to take federal money and do whatever, and then cut their own taxes or cut their own spending or whatever, and then suck up the federal money. Like with higher education, that's one of the reasons why tuition's going up so much, is because the federal government will fucking just give you a loan and aid and all the other shit, and the states are like, why the fuck are we going to fund this if we can fund a tax cut through all this bullshit? So
that is absolutely true.
So they cut funding, cut taxes, and then they raise tuition. I mean, that's been happening for like the last 30 years. It's honestly, I would be fine if Like, I know I'm probably going to piss off some of the libertarian types, but honestly, I think if Trump wanted to get like the college vote behind him, he would basically have the Federal Reserve buy up all the student loan debt and then just kill off the student loan program.
Well, that was a plan that, if I'm not mistaken, Bernie had, wasn't it? I can't
Um,
think of what it was called.
no, it was Jill Stein wanted to do that, like just buy
Oh,
up all the
okay.
debt and then kill it.
I got my people mixed up. I'm sorry.
Yeah, but
My apologies to any Bernie fans out there.
yeah. But I don't think the federal government. I mean, I can understand maybe the federal government keeping some form of Pell Grant around, but I honestly don't think. I think loans are should be out of the question, as far as the federal government goes, because you can't get rid of them if you go bankrupt.
Mm-mm.
And
Nope.
as much as I would like to see the the gender studies people suffer, there's also a lot of people who did get reasonably useful degrees that are suffering through with this too. So
Or people like in my case, for example, I mean, this is going to come as no shock to anyone that's listened to me speak for more than 5 minutes, but I don't have a degree.
mm-hmm.
And this was for some reason surprising to the people in human resources where I work, but I digress. Um, Thing is, I mean, I did plenty of time at university. I was going on to a biology major, which is basically pointless in the field that I ended up working in. So I'm really under no, what do you call it? It's really wouldn't benefit me to pursue
Finish
it and
it.
complete it. But the thing is, I still have those loans to pay off.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's just part of it.
Mm-hmm. Like another thing is, it's like I do want public higher education to be free, like high school and elementary school are. But I want the states picking up the tab. I don't want the federal government involved. Like I don't mind if they give poor people like a grant or something, like to pay for books and shit. But honestly, the making it free, the direct education should be totally on the states because they're the only ones that are really gonna care if the quality starts going down. Like in California, they've been asleep at the wheel for like 30 years now because they've basically cut the per student funding in half that the state kicks in and have just raised tuition to cover it, and they just don't give a shit what the CSU is doing anymore. So it's very easy to see that a degree from my college would have been worth more 20 years ago than it is now.
Third says that the only problem with getting rid of federal programs
Mm-hmm.
like loans is that you're getting rid of a federal program that gives money to voters.
Mm-hmm.
That's true, but it also tends to hold voters hostage. So I have mixed feelings. Bitch Please says having a degree nowadays means nothing.
Mm-hmm.
Since the universities have basically turned into diploma factories,
Mm-hmm.
I'm prone to agree.
Yeah, that's also another thing is if the states are picking up the tab, they'd actually have to make the degrees worth the damn and kick out people who aren't going to graduate.
Mm-hmm.
Because I mean, if they're not going to graduate, they're not. I mean, no offense to you, Farrell, but they're not worth spending money on. And I because I know people. I've talked about this. I know with my dad a few times. It's like when I was in my first year at the University of Nevada, maybe a third of my class were just there for it to be a booze cruise. Like they had no direction in life and they had like didn't really know what the fuck they were doing. Like I went in knowing I was either going to do biochemistry or business. I knew that going in. And I don't think it's too much to ask that if you're going into a 4-year university, you should have at least a couple career paths in mind when you go in. If not, you should be kicked off to a JC, no questions asked, your grades don't matter. Like if you have no direction, you shouldn't waste a space in a 4-year institution that could go to someone who actually knows what the fuck they're doing.
That's fair enough.
Mm-hmm. And I know, and another thing is like I thought about, it's like, so some person from the suburbs who doesn't know what the fuck they're doing is just going to college for a booze cruise. Why should someone that's from the ghetto who knows they want to be a teacher be not get even if their grades are like a few GPA points lower? Why shouldn't that? Why should the person who doesn't know what the fuck they're doing get priority over the person who does? It's an issue I have. I know that's like quasi social justicey, but I mean, if someone knows what the fuck they're doing and they still have the grade to qualify, they shouldn't be put ahead of someone who.
No, I don't think it's
Yeah.
social justicey at all. I mean, let's face it, people that have a plan of what they want to do and at least some direction, you're generally going to get your investment back on them.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now, the ones that basically show up, for the booze cruise, those are the ones that end up causing all the tabloids to go, spinning out of control.
Yeah.
Those are the Me Too cases of tomorrow.
Yeah. Like I know this happened when I was in Nevada. Like what? This is the year. This was the year when like the frat life was really getting the shit kicked out of it. I think this was 2013. I want to say like 2013, and like this is like one of the big like scandals before Gamergate, really. So, and at my university, I know one fraternity got like its entire it got like suspended and like not even allowed to recruit people for like 8 years or some bullshit. And then the same,
Wow.
yeah, and then the same thing happened to another fraternity for the first one. It was because they were because of hazing and racism. The other one I think was just hazing. Like they got like literally the point is though is like they were but anyways, and another person like frat guy potentially gave three sorority sisters herpes and posted it on Facebook.
I crack up with the whole anti-hazing rulings anyhow. It's like, have they considered going over to the sociology departments and asking, how men form groups?
Mm-hmm.
I
I
mean, when we haze, we're picking on someone basically to see if they can stand up to it.
the hazing they were doing was a little was pushing like legally being sexual assault though. Is what
Yeah,
they're getting
that's
at.
there is a difference.
So that's what they were going after. It was potential racial discrimination and potential sexual assault is what they were getting pissy about. So it was like a borderline illegal stuff that they were cracking down on, from what I remember at least.
Hmm.
Anyways, now that we've totally derailed this conversation without Cats being here.
Yeah, I have absorbed his powers into my own.
God damn it. Anyways, I don't think that would maybe let me. I don't really know if there's anything else more to do with this because I mean I just see the Human Rights Campaign and they're basically the whores of the LGBT world.
Yeah, pretty much. Now, on top of that, there's other ways of getting kids, aren't there? I mean, we might learn from the animal kingdom, like say, for example, penguins.
Which we're doing that next. We've got penguins, not the YouTuber. Unfortunately, we don't have the YouTuber named Penguins, but we have penguins.
Oh, one of my friends on Secret World goes by the name Penguin, so yeah, I'll just bring him on or her. I'm really not sure.
Anyways, you want to read the penguins?
Yeah. So, gay zoo penguins steal baby from neglectful straight parents. This gay couple was eventually given an egg of their own to raise. It was something straight out of an episode of Law and Order SV Zoo.
Yep.
When a gay penguin couple in a Denmark zoo stole a chick from its heterosexual parents. The father was left to watch the baby while the mother bathed, and the gay penguins, according to Attitude, were so desperate to start their own family that they kidnapped the fledgling after observing its inattentive parents.
Penguins.
I need banjos for this. I could, I could see there was something wrong, said Sandy Hadarg Monk, one of the zookeepers, after seeing footage from the penguins' enclosure. The parent couple was gone, and the kid had been kidnapped. There was a couple of homosexual males who had snatched the kid and stood with it. The monk had thought the heterosexual pair would be eager to find their missing offspring. She said only the mother seemed interested in searching for it, while the male wandered around unbothered. That's kind of funny. I mean, that goes with sexist TV tropes against men.
Penguins hate feminism.
Yeah, is this toxic masculinity, or since they're doing traditional child rearing work, is it liberation? Can't tell. TLDR. But let's see. I could see there was something wrong. Blah blah blah. Though Monk had thought the heterosexual pair. Hold on. Once she found her chick in the care of the gay penguins, the mother became aggressive, and zookeepers had to intervene and return the newborn to its birth parents. Though the gay penguins didn't get away with their kidnapping plot, the couple was given an egg by zookeepers to raise and care for after the penguin that laid it was unable to raise it.
Aww.
I'm not sure what Out is trying to get at with this one, but it is a cute story nonetheless. It also reminds me of some straight friends of mine that were wanting to adopt a child because, well, she had a disorder that made her infertile. And it's a long, drawn-out process to being able to adopt. My recommendation was to find someone with an adorable kid, ask if you could hold it for a minute, and then spend about an hour playing keep away. Ultimately, they'll get pissed off, and just say, fine, keep the damn thing.
Yeah. I don't know. I always vacillate on doing the whole would I want to adopt or would I want my own? Or at least with me and, future second dad. I stand more on the I would probably want my own. Just because I know how fucked up the foster care system is in California. I mean, and before people go, oh, haha, California, it's fucked up in every state. It just depends on how.
Yeah, I mean, I'm in Arkansas. It's a little bit fucked up here, too.
Yeah. Like there's no very like I know I'll speak from the California context. Either the county you live in is going to have an amazing system or it's going to be amazingly shit. There's no in between. And also, from what I understand, never deal with San Francisco Superior Court when it comes to adoption. It's in most counties in the country, if you go to court, 2 plus 2 is 5, and you just got to compensate for it being a little bit stupid. But in San
Mhm.
Francisco, 2 plus 2 is violet unless it's Tuesday, in which case it's fish. And for some reasons, we're not open on Friday. It's yeah, San Francisco, for what I understand, their court system, like when my grandfather died and I was dealing with his estate and whatnot, the
Probate court.
it wasn't
Fun.
probate. Thankfully, it wasn't probate, but he's like, yeah, like he was like saying like, yeah, if this was in San Francisco, it would have cost 3 times as much just to deal with it. Ugh. Just because it's San Francisco and they take forever to do anything. Like there's actually a few firms in San Francisco that other lawyers outsource shit to just to deal with processing paperwork. It's so stupid and complicated in San Francisco.
Oh, just had a quick question from Bitch, please.
Mm-hmm.
Bitch wants to know when my follow-up video on masculinity is coming out. Bitch, I have not forgotten about you, and it is recorded. I'm in the middle of editing now. I've just been out due to some family emergency
Mm-hmm.
issues. So I promise I will try to get that out to you. Probably, I'm shooting for tomorrow afternoon, possibly tomorrow evening Central Time.
Mm-hmm.
So thank you for being patient with me. I will try to make it worth your while, okay?
Okay.
Okay.
Oh, and Thurg is saying we need to court the UK and see if they're willing to join NAFTA. I don't know. Wouldn't it be the North Atlantic Free Trade Area, and then we'd have to deal with Mexico and Canada being, a little bitch because Trudeau is a little twink.
Well, Canada's primary export is snow and maple syrup and lesbian folk singers, so I think
Mm-hmm.
they can deal.
Yeah. Thurg also says, I guess the purpose of this article is to show that homosexuality exists in the animal kingdom, therefore it's perfectly natural and even gay men or penguins want to be parents. Well, I mean, I want to be a parent. I want 2 or 4, little boys running around being mine.
Yeah, but I'm also thinking about Big Gay Al's Big Gay Animal Sanctuary.
Oh, God.
It's a South Park thing.
I know.
You'll live.
But
Here we
yeah.
have a gay lion. Roar.
Yeah. I want kids, and my mom may or may not want to be a grandma.
Oh God, mine does. I've learned not to even broach the topic with her. It's like heroin. I swear to God, it is like heroin to that woman. She starts getting into the shakes and all that kind of stuff, I'm like, it takes 2 of us, right?
Yeah. Hold on. Let me go refill my water, and I'll be back, and we'll get to our last article of the whatever it is we're doing of us versus evil.
Okay. And Thurg is bringing up WAFTA, the Wide Area Free Trade Agreement. Sorry, I read that and I think immediately wide area networks, but that's what I do. Okay, bitch, please. I see. No stress. You're using reverse psychology on me now. Please stop yelling at me. So I'm going to go ahead and try to pull up our next article. I think we've got one, possibly, no, I think one more. Anything you guys want to go over in Chatland? There's a little bit of a delay, so if I stand here looking like an idiot, it's okay. We're used to this. Y'all had to forgive me if I'm quiet. I'm just no good at talking to myself because that's when all my plans get released.
And I am back.
Bacon's back! Yay!
Yay!
I have someone to talk at.
Yay! Well, I mean, you have Thurg and bitch, please.
Yeah, but with the delay, how it goes.
Yeah.
So
Also,
I'm just sitting here playing my pussy. So both of them.
also, bitch pleases thumbs up is black. That's cultural appropriation.
What if he identifies as black? Huh?
I thought he was Swedish.
My mom says there's a lot of black people in Sweden.
True.
Bitch, please is Swedish.
I thought he was some sort of European. I don't know. He'll tell me. He'll tell us in the comments at some point.
Yeah, if he's if he's from a couple of certain countries instead, yeah, you may just have a fight on your hands.
I mean, it's not as bad as if I imply that Thurg is from North Carolina, Best Carolina. uh, yeah, and yes, Chad, I did just take the Korea joke and apply it to Carolina. I understand. Well, at least no bitch please is white.
Bitch, please is white. Judging from the thumb, fantastic tan. Well done. Thurk says he stayed quiet on purpose just to make an awkward silence. Mission accomplished.
Mm-hmm.
So, let's talk about the women's.
Yep, the women. Okay, anyways, so apparently Out magazine is did a writing for. Bitch please is Croatian but lives in Sweden.
Oh my
Okay.
God, this one strikes close to home. I know her.
You do?
Yes.
Oh, okay. So are we going at this with kid gloves, or so we don't be a total?
Do it as we normally do. She wouldn't expect anything less.
Okay. So she would expect us both to be massive twats about this.
She basically surrounded herself with dying gay men for decades. You think she has not heard the slightest bit of dark humor? Really?
True. Okay. Do you want to start this off, or do you want me?
Yes, please. Ruth Coker Burks cared for hundreds of dying people, many of them gay men who had been abandoned by their families. She buried more than 36 of them herself after their families refused to claim their bodies. For the record, she actually opened up her own graveyard for this because other cemeteries, for some reason, weren't accepting. For many of those people, she is now the only person who knows the location of their graves. That sounds kind of ominous and creepy, but her reason for that is she was afraid that hateful family members that wouldn't claim the bodies, it would only disrupt the funerals, would end up desecrating the graves. It started in 1984 in a hospital hallway. Ruth Coker Burks was 25 and a young mother when she went to University Hospital in Little Rock, Arkansas, to help care for a friend who had cancer. Her friend eventually went through 5 surgeries, Burks said, so she spent a lot of time that year parked in hospitals. That's where she was. Oh, I'm sorry. Hello. Okay, I'll continue. Her friend eventually went through 5 surgeries, Burks said, so she spent a lot of time that year parked in hospitals. That's where she was the day she noticed the door with one big red bag over it. Oh no, it's fine. Now, the significance of the big red bag over the door, I was, raised by wild nurses, so I'll explain. The red bag is what you dispose of biomedical waste in. It's anything that is potentially hazardous. Yeah, it's
Sorry,
where you
actually. Oh,
dispose of
sorry.
hazmat.
No, sorry. I actually just realized chat couldn't hear me for a second.
Oh, okay. Could y'all hear my, cranky voice just fine? Okay.
Oh no, I muted myself.
Oh, okay. So it was a patient's room that had the big red bag over the door. She said she would watch the nurses draw straws to see who would go in and check on him. It'd be best 2 out of 3, and then they'd say, "Can we draw again?" She knew what it probably was, even though it was early enough in the epidemic for the disease to be called GRID, gay-related immune deficiency, instead of AIDS. She had a gay cousin in Hawaii and had asked him the stories of a gay plague after seeing reports on the news. He told her, "That's just the leather guys in San Francisco. It's not us. Don't worry." Still, in her concern, yeah, I mean, I'm aware of anything, where there's a disease and it's just someone else. Mm-hmm. Still, in her concern for him, she'd read everything she could find about the disease over the previous months, hoping he was right. Whether because of curiosity or, as she believes today, some higher power moving her, Burks eventually disregarded the warnings on the red door and snuck into the room. In the bed was a skeletal young man, wasted away to less than 100 pounds. He told her that he wanted to see his mother before he died. And there's a note down here. He's been here 6 weeks. Nobody's coming.
Mm-hmm.
I walked out, and the nurses said, "You didn't go in that room, did you?" I said, "Well, yeah, he wants his mother." They laughed and said, "Honey, his mother's not coming. He's been here 6 weeks. Nobody's coming." Unwilling to take no for an answer, Burks wrangled a number for the young man's mother out of one of the nurses, then called. She was able to speak for only a moment before the woman on the line hung up with her. "I called her back," Burks said. "I said, if you hang up on me again, I will put your son's obituary in your hometown newspaper, and I will list his cause of death." Then I had her attention. Her son was a sinner, the woman told Burks. She didn't know what was wrong with him and didn't care. She wouldn't come as he was already dead to her, as far as she was concerned. She said he wouldn't even claim, she said, she, being the mother, wouldn't even claim his body when he died. It was a curse Burks would hear again and again over the next decade: sure judgment and yawning hellfire, abandonment on a platter of scripture. Burks estimates that she works with more than 1,000 people dying of AIDS over the years. Of those, she said, only a handful of families didn't turn their backs on their loved ones.
Mm-hmm.
Do you want me to continue, or?
I was just gonna say at least they finally found one person. I'm kind of assuming she isn't a lesbian though.
No, no, she's not. She is
Yeah.
a straight woman. I met her at RAIN many years ago. That's the Regional AIDS Interfaith Network,
Mm-hmm.
and she is an absolute and utter peach.
Yep.
So this really is doing her justice.
Yeah. And
Uh,
it sounds like she's also not the biggest feminist in the world.
no, no. If anything,
Mm-hmm.
she's what I would refer to as kind of a baby soft feminist. At that,
Mm-hmm.
she's all for women having equality with men. She just does not believe in walking over corpses to make it happen.
Mm-hmm. So she sounds
And
like a normal person.
yes, actually, no, she is an extraordinary person.
Mm-hmm.
But
Well, I mean normal
I'll
in
quit
temperament.
blabbering and fanboying and all this kind of stuff.
I mean normal by temperament.
Oh, yes.
Mm-hmm.
Burks hung up the phone, trying to decide what she should tell the dying man. "I went back in his room," she said. "And when I walked in, he said, 'Oh, Mama, I knew you'd come.' And then he lifted his hand, and what was I going to do? So I took his hand. I said, 'I'm here, honey. I'm here.'" Burks pulled a chair to his bedside, talked to him, and held his hand. She bathed his face with a cloth and told him she was there. "I stayed with him for 13 hours while he took his last breaths on earth," she said. I'm sorry, the cats are chopping onions.
Ah.
Since at least the late 1880s, Burks's kin have been buried in Fowles Cemetery, a half acre of red dirt on top of a hill in Hot Springs, Arkansas. When Burks was a girl, she said, her mother got in a final epic row with Burks's uncle. To make sure he and his branch of the family tree would never lie in the same dirt as the rest of them, Burks said her mother quietly bought every single available grave space in the cemetery, 262 plots.
Wow.
They visited the cemetery most Sundays after church when she was young, Burke said, and her mother would often sarcastically remark on her holdings, looking out over the cemetery and telling her daughter, "Someday all of this is going to be yours." That's morbid, but
Mm-hmm. Okay.
I always wondered what I was going to do with the cemetery, she said.
Mm-hmm.
Who knew there'd come a time when people didn't want to bury their children? The Fowl Cemetery is where Burks laid the ashes of the man she'd seen die after a second call to his mother confirmed she wanted nothing to do with him, even in death. No one wanted him, she said, and I told him in those long 13 hours that I would take my beautiful little cemetery where my daddy and my grandparents are buried, and they would watch over him.
Mm-hmm. That's sweet.
Burks had to, pardon?
I don't know. I'm just saying she's sweet, sweet lady.
She was sincere. Burks had to contract with a funeral home in Pine Bluff, some 70 miles away, for the cremation. It was the closest funeral home she could find that would even touch the body. She paid for the cremation out of her savings. The ashes were returned to her in a cardboard box. She went to a friend at Dryden Pottery in Hot Springs, who gave her a chipped cookie jar for an urn. Then she went to Fowl Cemetery and used a pair of post hole diggers to excavate a hole in the middle of her father's grave. Wow. That's, pardon the expression, but that's deep. I mean, I knew that Daddy would love that about me, she said. I knew that I would be able to find him if I ever needed to find him. She put the urn in the hole and covered it over. She prayed over the grave, and it was done. Over the next few years, as she became one of the go-to people in the state when it came to caring for those dying with AIDS, Burks would bury more than 40 people in chipped cookie jars in Fowl Cemetery. Most of them were gay men whose families would not even claim their ashes. And then there's this beautiful picture of her.
Mm-hmm.
My daughter would go with me, Burke said. She had a little spade and I had post hole diggers. I'd dig the hole and she would help me. I'd bury them and then we'd have a do it yourself funeral. I couldn't get a priest or a preacher. No one would even say anything over their graves. She believes the number is 43, but she isn't sure. Somewhere in her attic, a box containing, among the dozens of yellow day planners she calls her books of the dead, filled with the appointments, setbacks, and medication of people 30 years gone. There's a long list of names. Burke's always made a last effort to reach out to families before she put the urns in the ground. I tried every time, she said. They hung up on me. They cussed me out. They prayed like I was a demon on the phone and they had to get me off. Prayed while they were on the phone. Just crazy. Just ridiculous. After she cared for the dying man at University Hospital, people started calling Burke's asking for her help. They just started coming, she said. Word got out that there was this kind of wacko woman in Hot Springs who wasn't afraid. They would tell them, just go to her. Don't come to me. Here's the name and number. Go. I was their hospice. Their gay friends were their hospice. Their companions were their hospice. Before long, she was getting referrals from the rural hospitals all over the state, financing her work through donations and sometimes out of her own pocket. She would take patients to their appointments, help them to get assistance when they could no longer work, help them take their medicines, and try to cheer them up when the depression was dark as a pit. She said many pharmacies wouldn't handle prescriptions for AIDS drugs, such as azithromycin, and there was fear among those who would. She'd soon stockpiled what she called an underground pharmacy in her house. I didn't have any narcotics, but I had AZT. I had antibiotics, she said. People would die and leave me all of their medications. I kept it because someone else might not have any. Burke said the financial help given to patients, from burial expenses to medications to rent for those unable to work, couldn't have happened without the support of the gay clubs around the state, particularly Little Rock's Discovery. And yes, Norman, aka Norma, did a really, really, really big amount of work with AIDS organizations,
Mm-hmm.
or especially during the crisis. I'm not a big fan of Norman, but yeah, he really did do good on that. They would twirl up a drag show on Saturday night, and here'd come the money, she said.
Mm-hmm.
That's how we would buy medicine. That's how we pay rent. If it hadn't been for the drag queens, I don't know what we could have done.
Those were not drag queens according to the current line. Those were women of transness.
Horseshit. Asia is most certainly a drag queen. So is Dominique Sanchez.
Yeah, I know.
Sorry, I know them.
Yeah,
So,
but the trannies was queens argument is that they were trans women, not drag queens.
yep, they were boys in dresses.
I know.
And really hilarious bitchy ones at that. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
I really had a lot of fun picking on them. They used to treat me like their pimp. Like there were pictures around me, my foot propped up on one, got a Panama hat on, smoking a cigar. But I digress. I mean, wonderful people. Burke's stories from that time border on nightmarish, with her watching one person after another waste away before her eyes. She would sometimes go to 3 funerals a day in the early years, including the funerals of many people she'd befriended while they fought the disease. Many of her memories seem to have blurred together into a kind of terrible shade. Others are told with perfect, minute clarity. There was a man whose family insisted he be baptized in a creek in October 3 days before he died to wash away the sin of being gay. His mother pressed a spoonful of oatmeal to his lips, pleading, "Roger, eat. Please eat. Roger, please, please, please." Now, a lot of that, by the way, was from the azithromycin, AZT. I can't pronounce it, but oh well. Those medications are notorious for killing your appetite. But that was the earlier generation medications we had. Until Burks gently took the spoon and bowl from her, who died at 6'6" and 75 pounds. Okay, him. And keep in mind, 6'6" and 75 pounds, that is tiny.
Yeah, it is.
Whose aunts came to his parents' house after the funeral in plastic suits and yellow gloves to double bag his clothes and scrub everything, even the ceiling fan, with bleach. She recalled the odd sensation of sitting with dying people while they filled out their own death certificates, because Burks knew that she wouldn't be able to call in their families for the required information. We'd sit and fill it out together, she said. Can you imagine filling out your death certificate before you die? But I didn't have that information. I wouldn't have their mother's maiden name or this, that, or the other. So I'd get a pizza, and we'd have pizza and fill out the death certificate. Billy is the one who hit her hardest and the one she remembers most clearly of all. He was one of the youngest she'd ever care for, a female impersonator in his early 20s. He was beautiful, she said, perfect and fine boned. She still has one of Billy's dresses up in her closet in the city of Rogers. A tiny, flame red designer number, intricate as an orchid. And I think I know who she's talking about. As Billy's health declined, Burks accompanied him to the mall in Little Rock as he quit his job at a store there. Afterward, she said, he wept, Burks holding the frail young man as shoppers streamed around them. He broke down just sobbing in the middle of the mall, she said. I just stood there and held him until he quit sobbing. People were looking and pointing and all that, but I couldn't care less. Once, a few weeks before Billy died, he weighed only 55 pounds, the lightest she ever saw, light as a feather, so light that she was able to lift his body from the bed with just her forearms. Burks had taken Billy to an appointment in Little Rock. Afterward, they were driving around aimlessly trying to get his spirits up. She often felt like crying in those days, she said, but she couldn't let herself. She had to be strong for them. He was so depressed. It was horrible, she said. We were driving by the zoo and somebody was riding an elephant. He goes, you know, I've never ridden an elephant. I said, well, I'll fix that. And she turned the car around. Somewhere in the boxes that hold all her terrible memories, there's a picture of the two of them up on the back of the elephant. Ruth Coker Burks in her heels and dress, Billy with a rare smile. And it wasn't all terrible. When Burks got to see the worst in people, she was also privileged to see people at their best, caring for their partners and friends with selflessness, dignity, and grace. She said that's why she's been so happy to see gay marriage legalized all over the country. I watched these men take care of their companions and watch them die, she said. I've seen them go in and hold them up in the shower. They would hold them while I washed them. They would carry them back to the bed. We would dry them off and put lotion on them. They did that until the very end, knowing they were going to be that person before long. Now, you tell me that's not love and devotion?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know a lot of straight people who would do that. Yeah, right now I know of only like 3 personally.
Yeah, no.
Ruth Coker Burks had a stroke 5 years ago, early enough in her life that she can't help but believe that the stress of the bad old days had something to do with it. After the stroke, she had to relearn everything, to talk, to feed herself, to read, to write. It's probably a miracle she's not buried in Foul Cemetery herself. Hold on a sec. Did I lose audio? Or video? No, it didn't.
No, you didn't.
Okay. After better drugs, education, and understanding and treatment made her work obsolete, she moved to Florida for several years where she worked as a funeral director and a fishing guide. When Bill Clinton was elected president, she served as a White House consultant on AIDS education. In 2013, she went to bat for 3 foster children who were removed from the elementary school at nearby Pea Ridge after administrators heard that one of them might be HIV positive. Burke said she couldn't believe that she was still dealing with the same knee-jerk fears in the 21st century. The work she and others did in the 1980s and 90s has mostly been forgotten, partly because so many of those she knew back then have died. She's not the only one who did that work, but she's one of the few who survived, and so she has become the keeper of memory. Before she's gone, she said, she'd like to see a memorial erected in Foul Cemetery, something to tell people the story, a plaque, a stone listing of the names of the unremembered dead who live there, or who lie there. Someday, she said, I'd love to get a monument that says this is what happened. In 1984, it started. They just kept coming and coming, and I knew they'd be remembered, loved, and taken care of, and someone would say a kind word over them when they died. Okay, I thought this was very uncharacteristic journalism for Out, and I see why now that we get to the bottom of the article.
Yeah, it's not from them.
This story originally appeared in the Arkansas Times. That would be Max Brantley, that's the editor-in-chief there. He and I disagree often politically, but there's something to be said for some top-notch writing, and that man knows it.
Mm-hmm.
So this, I'd like to talk a little bit about this article, if you don't mind, Bacon.
Yeah, go
Would
ahead.
that be okay?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, first off, when I hear people talking about my pronouns and all that kind of stuff and acting like
Mm-hmm.
that is discrimination, that is not fucking discrimination.
Mm-hmm.
Your family rejecting you is discrimination. Watching people, the people that are supposed to take care of you, watch you slowly die from a
Mm-hmm.
distance, that is. I'm sorry.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just very frustrated with this whole thing. And yeah, this article got me
Mm-hmm.
fired up.
Yeah, like I had the same reaction when like during because when Charlottesville happened, I was actually in Poland when it happened,
Mhm.
and the day before, was it the day before? It's hard to remember with the 9 hour time difference when exactly everything was happening. I think when Charlottesville was happening, I was actually at one of the war memorials.
Uh-huh.
Um, anyways, and then seeing afterwards, like people like Riley having a shit-eating grin when the prospect of us falling into some sort of totalitarian nightmare. And I'm like, and I was gonna eventually I was gonna put up a picture about it, not a picture, but a video about it, and I ended up deciding against it because I was just yelling, and I was getting strange looks from people who obviously didn't know what I was yelling about because no one spoke English around me. But to have people like Riley and them wanting like the shit-eating grin saying how much they want a fascist regime to take over, and it's like I just walked down a half a mile of white pillars that had the names of people that the Germans slaughtered as they were retreating through Warsaw. It's like you really want that. You really want us to look back, 3 or 4 generations later to be looking at like a mile long stretch of just pillars with people who were just murdered wantonly. Like you really want that to be the memory of this time period. Is that of people just being murdered for the just not for no reason. Like that's what you're looking towards. And it's just
Thurg says
offensive.
that he wants for the bitch little twerps who complain as if we are in the worst times ever for
Mm-hmm.
GLBT folks to read this.
Yeah, they
You're
won't.
damn right I want to read it. I want to show them the fucking pictures.
Mm-hmm.
And I think this is a good segue into our last article.
Mm-hmm. Which one?
Um, Britain,
Oh yeah,
Truvada.
Britain. Yeah. Wait, did I get that one? I don't think I got that one.
In that case, let me go ahead and post that in your twatter.
Yeah, hold on. I'm gonna go see the twatter. Hold on. Don't need you guys do not need to see my twatter.
And this one is courtesy of Gaystar News via JoeMyGod.com.
Fuck them both.
So here's the thing about it. I've talked a little bit earlier about some of the earlier medications that we had. Azothiothymidine was AZT was one of the first off, and it had all kinds of horrible issues. It would attack your bone marrow, which would cause you to lose red blood cells like crazy. Let's see, it ended up just wreaking havoc on your appetite, on fat deposits and stuff like that. You could literally tell who had it back then, in the later stages because of the strange way that fat dispersed on the body while they were going. But the thing is, everything has changed now. We do have better medications, and I think in a very well-intended but misguided attempt, we've come out with Truvada. Now, there are people, calling for shaming people that take it. There are people that say that this is the best way to do it. But for people that aren't familiar, Truvada is a combination of I believe it's emtricitabine or something like that, and tenofovir, which are two of the three medications in the common HIV cocktail today. Taking them does have a preventative effect, but the thing is, we're marketing these medications out now, first off, to people that don't need them, and it's already been shown that it's increasingly risky behavior.
Mm-hmm.
The problem is HIV is a retrovirus. It is not a standard one. It is, instead of being DNA based, it is RNA based, which means it's extremely unstable, which means it's also very prone to mutation. And that's what made our earlier attempts to eradicate the virus so damn difficult. I mean, but now that we have these two medications that work extremely, or three medications rather, that work extremely well, and two of them together tend to give a degree, though not a perfect degree of immunity, we're passing that out. The problem is these people have not seen Jurassic Park.
Mm-hmm.
These viruses change. If you take out the ones that are affected by this medication, while at the same time reducing the behavior that prevents the spread completely, which would be keeping your dick in your pants or at least wrapping it up, then all that's doing is it's going to cause rates to decrease for a time. I fully expect that.
And then the
But
virulent
also,
ones are going to survive. That's what's going to happen.
exactly, and there are already two different variants of the virus. One that is resistant to antrobacene, or however you want to pronounce that. I'm not even going to attempt to. And one variant that is, what do you call it, resistance to tenofovir. The thing is, it takes two of these things, three if you outright have it.
Mm-hmm.
So the thing is, it's all that is opening. First off, it's killing off some versions of the virus that we can successfully treat. But it's also at the same time, since we're dropping protective behaviors, we are basically opening a huge attack vector for these variants of the virus that are not phased by this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
It's very disturbing.
Not to
What
mention,
do you think, Bacon?
well, I mean, not to mention that, yeah, we're going to eventually get the most virulent strains are just going to survive and start spreading again. But not to mention that, there's like drug resistant strains of syphilis starting to rise in the US right now and in the
And
world.
as someone who's actually had syphilis, yeah, I'm going to go ahead and put that with my name on there and everything. Hi,
Mm-hmm.
Mom. Um, Syphilis is nothing to mess with.
Mm-hmm.
When I ended up getting my treatment for it, I was the first case in Arkansas for God knows how long. They had no idea what the hell they were looking with, and I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
that's weird because typically people don't get rashes on their palms of their hands or the soles
Mm-hmm.
of their feet.
Yeah.
But I found out at the same time that there was a huge outbreak of syphilis, which, as far as I knew, was something that was dead, you know,
Yeah.
all over the states, and that the medication for that, which is penicillin G, was actually running in short supply. They were telling them flat out, unless it's something we know can be treated with this, don't use that. We need this shit.
Mm-hmm.
So that's pretty disturbing.
Yeah, that's just one of those things where it's like, ah, God, it's one of the. People really do need to understand that you do prep's not a silver bullet. I mean, let alone, I mean, yeah, eventually the more virulent strains, which thankfully, from what I understand of them, they don't exist in high numbers anyways. But they will if you're not protecting yourself against them. I mean, it may not be as bad as the last HIV crisis, but it's still going to be very fucking bad.
Well, especially after reading over Ruth's story,
Mm-hmm.
those are times that I do not want to see us go through again.
Mm-hmm.
The younger generation may not understand this. I mean, it
Mm-hmm.
may be something they only see from like whitewashed videos, but
Mm-hmm.
I recommend that they, at the very least, do themselves a favor of looking up a movie
Mm-hmm.
that was filmed during the AIDS crisis. It starred Hugh Grant, and it was called Oh, I'm sorry, Our Sons. It wasn't Longtime Companion, which was another good one. Watch that movie.
Mm-hmm.
It's Hugh Grant in it plays the role of a young man whose partner is lying in the hospital, dying from the late complications of
Mm-hmm.
HIV, and it is a real tearjerker. But as far as it being fictionalized go, it's only marginally fictionalized. I
Yeah.
mean, I remember this shit from back
Mm-hmm.
then.
Yeah, like in my environmental sciences class, we were after we took the AP exams, we actually watched. It was about the person who discovered Ebola, who also was a researcher in HIV in the early days in the U.S.
Mhm.
It was basically the explaining of his life and also the French doctors that were treating the first woman to die of HIV in Europe, like just like their story of figuring out, what's actually going on. And it's like, yeah, people were just getting sick and just dying, and no one has any desire to really look into that or stop that. And it's like, look, your event even if the more virulent strains are harder to pass on, but they're surviving the medication that we have now. Even if it only gets us a third of as bad as the last crisis, that's still a big fucking crisis. You know.
Thurg says that a lot of bacterial STIs run in cycles.
Mm-hmm.
There will be an outbreak, and then it will almost be eradicated. Then we let down our guard, and it comes back with a passion. Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
The whole slogan of ACT UP was silence is equal to death. I would go as far as to say let's alter that to what it really is.
Mm-hmm.
Complacency is death.
Yeah. That's also another thing we really do need to start. Like, we do need to push not only um, with the whole advocacy against the ongoing bullshit. It's the fact that they don't really care to talk about safe sex. They really don't. I mean, it's like, yeah, they might talk about drunk college sex, but it's like people are getting STDs. STDs are starting to become antibiotic resistant. If before we even talk about things like HIV, fucking syphilis and gonorrhea and chlamydia can still fuck you up or kill you. And if they,
They can render you infertile,
yeah,
for example, if you're wanting to have kids.
mm-hmm.
that's just the least of it. Syphilis in its late stages, which is well after the symptomatic phase,
Mm-hmm.
will literally eat holes in your fucking brain.
Yeah, until you die.
I mean, that's what happened to Nietzsche, for crying out
Mm-hmm.
loud.
Yeah, still it's one of the this is one of the things that I dislike the most about the whole movement and bullshit.
So with Truvada, Britain's High Court has overturned the patent on the PrEP drug.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll go ahead and start on it, unless you'd like to go.
Hold on, let me see if I got a. Hold on, okay. Britain's High Court today ruled to overturn pharmaceutical company Gilead's science patent extension on Truvada. The HIV medication is also used for as PrEP. When taken as advised, this stops HIV-negative people from acquiring HIV. And also, when you're as directed, you do get tested, and you are supposed to be safe. They recommend safe sex. At least Gilead's more responsible than fucking most gay organizations.
Mm-hmm.
PrEP is not yet available on NHS England and Wales. The NHS is currently conducting trials to test its cost efficiency. It is still in the process of recruiting around 10,000 high-risk participants for the ongoing trial. And I'm going to bet a lot of these people are probably not going to take it as directed. I'm just going to say that now.
Human nature.
Yep.
They will take the path of least resistance
Mm-hmm.
every damn time.
And that is also the mantra of diseases.
Mm-hmm. It's a match made in hell.
Yep.
Truvada was due to come off of patent in July 2017, but Gilead extended its exclusivity until 2020 by a supplementary protection certificate. This prohibited similar pharma companies from selling generic versions of the drug in UK. Britain's National AIDS Trust reacts. We welcome this court decision, which overturns the patent extension for Truvada. This is the HIV prevention drug used for PrEP. The decision will mean that the unbranded versions of the drug can be legally prescribed. This represents a huge cost saving to buying a drug that would save public money, even at full price. We continue to urge the NHS in England to commission PrEP by April 2019, as the current trial is not reaching everyone at risk. Indeed, some have acquired HIV after being turned away from clinics whose trial places are full. With a generic unbranded version of the drug available at a fraction of the cost, the pressure increases on NHS England to begin routine commissioning and to make PrEP available to all who need it urgently. Point of contention.
Mm-hmm.
They're acting as if the HIV is occurring in a vacuum.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that people that just, oh my God, I was walking the street and all of a sudden I fell in some ass and all of a sudden AIDS. No,
Mm-hmm.
it's not like that.
No, you
This is
gotta
not an
be.
accidental disease.
Yeah, you got to be doing like any sexual disease. You got to be having sex and not being safe about it.
And I'm not even saying blame the person that has it here, but recognize that we are responsible for our behavior,
Mm-hmm.
and our behavior does have a huge point to do with this. Of
Mm-hmm.
course, I'm an alt-right shitlord, so I can say these things.
Yep.
I know because some blue-haired chick on Twitter told me so.
Mm-hmm.
Gilead reacts that Gilead is disappointed in the High Court of England and Wales' decision to invalidate Gilead's Truvada SPC and intends to appeal.
Of course they do.
Pardon?
Of course they do.
Well, yeah, they're trying to protect their economic interests. I can't blame them. In the U.S., Truvada currently retails for around $2,000 of someone else's money per month, and activists have long sought to end its patent. Such efforts are complicated by the pill's multiple components, each of which has its own patent, which is true. It's not a medication in and of itself, it's a compound medication. Last year, the FDA approved a generic version, but it has not yet been produced, as such approvals are sometimes issued years ahead of the expiration of the original drug's patent. The patent for one of Truvada's components doesn't expire until 2021, according to Gilead.
Mm-hmm. Also, another thing I know they do with drugs is they'll know of like of a negative side effect while like when they do the initial like research of it, and then they'll popularize it.
Vioxx, good example.
Yeah. Well, anyways, but they popularize that random negative side effect that might only occur in like 1 in 1,000 people, and then they use that as a reason to modify the drug slightly to get another patent and keep a generic version from rising because of that 1 in 1,000 bad negative side effect. So
That's true.
that's
And
probably
that is kind of iffy.
So that's it wouldn't surprise me if Gilead ends up pulling that in like next year when it's like, oh, Truvada is gonna go generic in a year or two, and then all of a sudden it turns out there's some random side effect that I don't know it makes your palms sweaty or something stupid, and they're like, oh well, we gotta not have a generic version.
Well, there are side effects to Truvada, as much as I'd like to
Mm-hmm.
tout that it has no downfall whatsoever, aside from being incredibly expensive, which of course you can chuck on somebody else to pay. It's that it's first off, I mean, it is extremely bad for the liver. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, not outright toxic, but after repetitive use, if you're taking it as you should, and if you're taking it, yes, as a matter of fact, you fucking should. It's not exactly easy on the liver to process.
Mm-hmm. Well, pretty much in any medication that deals with your immune system is not going to be good on your liver. Just a fair warning, people.
Yeah, otherwise you'd be able to get the shit, off the over the counter. Of course, there
Mm-hmm.
some over the counter things are bad for it too, but I digress.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
Now, I mean, I'm not saying in this don't take prep, that prep is evil or anything like that, but at
just
least,
understand what you're taking.
well, understand what you're taking. Take responsibility for your life. Realize there is no magic silver bullet, and that everything has a cost.
And wear a
Weigh that
condom.
out and make an informed decision.
And use condoms.
And whatever decision you make, fucking own it.
Mm-hmm. And please, for the love of Jesus, use condoms. Just throwing that out there. Use condoms, please, everybody.
I strongly recommend for it. In fact, most people's complaints about condoms is that it kills the sensitivity, that they don't fit right. Yeah, right. But let's face it, we've only got three basic sizes in the U.S., and everybody is going to go for Trojan Magnum XLs any day of the week.
Mm-hmm.
Now, there is a store in Fayetteville, Arkansas called Condom Sense, and I'm going to give a quick shout out to them. They actually deal with specialized versions where people can shop around for a kind that they really like. Another one that is not approved for, it's not FDA approved for anal sex, so they can't market it that way, is the very poorly named female condom. Have you heard of those?
Yeah, I've heard of those.
They're great. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, excellent. You can use any kind of lubrication you want with them. It feels, I mean, feels a lot better, and they're a lot thinner since
Mm-hmm.
they're made from polypropylene instead of latex. So,
Right.
with not to gross anyone out, but they can certainly take a pounding, and I mean they're excellent, and I really strongly advise people to look into those as an alternative to
Mm-hmm.
prep or as a supplement even.
Yeah. Like, I know this is a thing that one of my mom's lesbian friends told me this before I went to college, but she's like, yeah, if you ever, because this is before I was out.
Mm-hmm.
She was like, yeah, if you're going to be in college and you're going to have a girlfriend, make sure you use two types of birth control, like condoms and like an IUD or something, because it doesn't usually, you don't usually get pregnant through two forms. Same thing with getting an STD. You're not going to get through. It's harder to get through two forms of prevention than just one.
Yeah, I mean nothing's foolproof, but it's just like security. You
Mm-hmm.
make it you know that no security system is
100%.
100% or effective, but you can at least make it as much of a pain in the ass to get it where it's just not worth it.
Mm-hmm.
Same thing with bugs.
Yep.
And if anyone out there's a bug chaser, I'm sorry, dude, you need help. You're worth more than that.
Yeah, I know. Any,
And Bitch Place said condoms smell weird.
of course they do. They're rubber.
Yeah, in which case I'd say definitely go for the female condom. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, they're polypropylene, so you're not going to get as much of a scent off that. Rubber is kind of a telltale one.
Mm-hmm. Also, another thing is I don't understand why all condoms aren't just made out of plastic at this point.
Well,
I mean, they're not. They're
that I have no idea.
yeah, they're hypoallergenic. They don't. They're more durable. They're less likely to spread stuff. So again, I don't understand why people aren't.
They're thinner,
Yeah.
so it's great. In Japan, there's a I'm sorry, Thurg says in Japan there are condom machines where you can get a selection of different size handles to grab and judge relative size. Each handle was for a different size condom. That's actually a pretty good idea, but how many lonely people over there? I mean, do you just pull on the handle until it gives you the condom, or what?
Yeah, I mean, on a serious note, though, when I was in England, they actually do sell condoms out of vending machines in Heathrow. I noticed that. Oh, and for all of you who are going to be watching this after the fact, I forgot to link the articles in the bottom because I didn't know which ones we were going to do. They're all going to be linked in the side chat at the end now. So if you want to read any of this bullshit, I don't know why, but It's all in the side chat.
Absolutely.
On that note, I can click out of all the article screens. Yay!
Hooray! I don't know. I'm going to leave them open. I found that my computer won't work properly without at least 72 windows open.
Oh, that's not good.
So, got anything else?
I do not have anything else. Do you have anything else to bring up?
No, just thanks for tuning in, everybody, and everybody in the future. Remember, drive safely, always wear a rubber, and Bacon, I'll throw it over to you.
Okay, thank you everyone for watching. I hope you did enjoy, and yeah, if I don't know if there's links below. I need to come up with like a copy paste autofill version description for this type of show. Since we do it on a regular basis now.
Farrell reads really depressing story.
Yes. Actually, I just full warning. I might chop out that section and name it that.
Farrell reads really depressing story.
Yes.
You're such a cunt. I love you.
Anyways, good night, everybody, or good afternoon, everybody, and have a good day.